The massive alien ship moved through space like a silver whale swimming through dark water. Captain Vexstar stood on the bridge and watched the blue planet grow larger on the main screen. His four eyes blinked in sequence as he studied the world that his people called the Third Rock. The humans who lived there called it Earth. Dr. Lisa Coleman sat in her small office at Frontier Base and stared at the computer screen. Strange signals were coming from space, and she could not understand what they meant. She had been working with alien languages for 10 years, but these sounds were different from anything she had heard before. The patterns were too complex and the frequency was too high for most species she knew about. Jake Martinez walked into her office carrying 2 cups of coffee. He was her best friend and the only person who could make sense of her wild theories about alien life. He set 1 cup on her desk and looked at the screen over her shoulder. "The signals are getting stronger," Lisa said, without looking up from her. "Something big is coming our way and it wants to talk to us." Jake took a sip of his coffee and frowned. The taste was bitter, but he did not complain because Lisa had been working for 18 hours straight. On the alien ship, Captain Vex called his science team to the main meeting room. The walls were covered with charts and graphs that showed Earth's strange energy readings. Dr. Zepko was the chief scientist, and his people were known for being very smart. He had been studying the human planet for 3 months, and his findings were shocking. "The gravitational fields around this world are unlike anything we have seen before," Zefko said to the group. "The energy patterns change every few minutes, and they seem to be connected to the large population centers. We believe the humans have learned how to control gravity itself." Captain Ryan Bishop was drinking his morning coffee when the first reports came in. He worked for Earth Defense, and his job was to watch for threats from space. The alien ship was huge, and it was moving closer to Earth every hour. His team had been tracking it for 2 days, but nobody knew what the aliens wanted. Lisa finally decoded part of the alien message, and she could not believe what she was reading. The aliens were asking for permission to study Earth's gravitational anomalies. They wanted to land research teams in major cities and scan the planet with powerful instruments. She called Jake over to read the message, and he whistled in surprise. "They think we can control gravity," Lisa said. "That is impossible, but somehow they detected energy fields around our cities." Jake looked at the data again and shook his head. The aliens were clearly very advanced, but they were wrong about human abilities. Captain Vexter sent the first official message to the human government. His people were peaceful, and they only wanted to learn about the strange gravitational technology that humans had developed. He promised that his scientists would not harm anyone, and they would share their own knowledge in return for access to human gravity manipulation methods. President Helen Davis received the alien message in her office at 3 in the morning. She had been asleep, but her security team woke her up because this was the most important day in human history. She read the message 3 times and called an emergency meeting with her top advisors. Dr. Coleman and Jake worked through the night to prepare a response to the aliens. They explained that humans did not have any gravity control technology and that there must be some mistake in the alien readings. The energy signatures they detected were probably from human cities and power grids, but not from any kind of weapon or advanced science. Captain Bishop was not happy about the alien interest in human cities. His job was to protect Earth, and he did not trust anyone who came from space asking questions about human technology that did not exist. He ordered his teams to monitor all alien communications and to prepare for the worst case scenario. The alien ship moved into orbit around Earth and began detailed scans of the surface. Every time their instruments focused on a major city, the energy readings got stronger. Dr. Zefko was amazed by what he saw. The humans were definitely manipulating gravitational fields, but they were pretending not to know how they did it. Lisa sent the human response to the aliens and waited for their reply. She hoped they would understand that the energy readings were not from gravity weapons, but from something much more simple. The truth was that humans were scared of the aliens, and their fear was creating biological changes that the alien instruments could detect. Jake looked at the latest scan results and noticed something strange. The energy patterns were strongest in areas where the most people lived, and they changed when people were sleeping or awake. He showed the data to Lisa, and she realized what was happening. The aliens were detecting human emotions, not human technology. Captain Vexstar received the human message and discussed it with his science team. The humans claimed they had no gravity control abilities, but the instrument readings clearly showed powerful energy fields around their population centers. Either the humans were lying about their capabilities, or they did not understand their own technology. Their stage was set for the biggest misunderstanding in galactic history, and neither side knew what was really happening. Commander Zefkal stood before the Galactic Consortium's most important scientists and showed them the data from Earth. The holographic display filled the huge meeting room with swirling patterns of energy that nobody had ever seen before. Representatives from 40 different species watched in amazement as the human planet's readings danced across the screen. "The energy signatures are beyond anything in our database," Zefkal explained to the silent audience. "These humans have somehow learned to bend spacetime using what we can only call quantum terafields. The power levels change based on their population density and seem to respond to external stimuli in real time." Dr. Amy Foster was working in her laboratory when the alien message arrived. She had spent her whole life studying physics, and she knew that humans could not manipulate gravity with their minds. The alien claims were impossible, but their instrument readings were very real. Something was causing those energy patterns, and she needed to figure out what it was. Professor Ben Carter was the best linguist on Earth, and his job was to help humans and aliens understand each other. He had been studying the alien language for weeks, and he was starting to make progress. The problem was that some concepts did not translate well between species, and gravity manipulation was apparently one of them. The alien scientists were very excited about the discovery, and they wanted to study human gravity technology immediately. Dr. Cathara was a specialist in exotic physics, and she had never seen anything like the Earth readings. Her people had been studying gravity for thousands of years, but they had never achieved the power levels that humans seem to produce naturally. Captain Vextar received new orders from the Galactic Consortium, and he did not like what he read. His peaceful scientific mission was being changed into a military investigation because other species were worried about human gravity weapons. He had hoped to make friends with the humans, but now his government wanted him to treat them as a potential threat. Lisa and Jake were working around the clock to convince the aliens that humans had no special powers. They sent detailed explanations of human biology and showed how human cities produced electrical and magnetic fields from their technology. The aliens received all the information, but they refused to believe that simple biological processes could create such strong readings. President Davis held another emergency meeting with her top scientists and military leaders. The aliens were asking more specific questions about human gravity control methods, and they were starting to sound impatient. Captain Bishop warned her that the alien ship was moving closer to Earth, and more ships were coming from deep space. Dr. Foster made a breakthrough when she realized what the aliens were actually detecting. Human emotions created bioelectric fields that were much stronger than most species produced. When millions of people felt the same emotion at the same time, the combined effect was powerful enough to show up on sensitive alien instruments. The problem was that the aliens did not understand emotions the way humans did. Professor Carter discovered that most alien species had very simple feeling systems, and they could not imagine how complex human emotions worked. Fear was completely unknown to them, and they had no word for it in any of their languages. Commander Zefkal published his research about human gravity manipulation, and it became the most important scientific paper in galactic history. Scientists from hundreds of worlds read about the amazing humans who could control space-time with their consciousness. Nobody questioned whether the data might have a simpler explanation. Captain Bishop was getting more worried every day as additional alien ships arrived in the solar system. The newcomers were not scientists like Captain Vextar's crew, but military vessels from species that considered human gravity weapons to be a threat to galactic peace. He ordered Earth's defenses to prepare for possible combat. Amy Foster tried to demonstrate human emotions to the alien scientists, but they could not understand what she was showing them. She made herself angry and sad and happy while alien instruments recorded her bioelectric patterns. The aliens saw the energy changes, but they thought she was deliberately controlling some kind of gravity field generator inside her body. Jake discovered that the alien readings got stronger whenever large groups of humans experienced fear at the same time. Movie theaters showing scary films created small spikes in the local readings, and news reports about the alien ships caused massive energy surges across entire cities. The pattern was clear, but the aliens interpreted it as proof that humans could weaponize their gravity control. The misunderstanding was getting worse instead of better, and both sides were starting to lose patience. The aliens could not believe that humans were too primitive to understand their own technology, and the humans could not convince the aliens that emotions were natural biological responses, not controlled abilities. Lisa made one last attempt to explain human fear to Captain Vexstar during a private communication session. She showed him videos of humans running from dangerous animals and hiding from natural disasters. The captain watched carefully, but he only saw more evidence that humans could create gravity fields to enhance their physical abilities. During stressful situations, Professor Carter realized that the communication problem was bigger than just language differences. The aliens had evolved on worlds where emotions were simple and controlled, while humans had evolved complex emotional systems that affected their entire biology. The two types of minds were so different that they could barely understand each other. Dr. Cathara was studying human emotional responses, and she was beginning to suspect that something was wrong with the standard interpretation. Her own species had weak emotions, but she could feel something similar to human reactions when she watched their fear displays. The energy patterns matched her own small bioelectric changes. President Davis made a difficult decision and agreed to let a small group of alien scientists visit Earth to study human gravity technology in person. She hoped that direct observation would help them understand that humans had no special powers, but Captain Bishop warned her that the aliens might see the visit as proof that humans were hiding something important. The stage was set for an even bigger confrontation as more alien ships arrived and human fear levels continued to rise, creating stronger and stronger readings that convinced the aliens that Earth was preparing for war. Fleet Admiral Corthton arrived at Earth with 20 warships and a very bad attitude. His people were called the Draconians, and they had been fighting wars across the galaxy for 2,000 years. He did not care about scientific research or peaceful contact because he believed that humans were lying about their gravity weapons and planning to attack other worlds. The massive Draconian fleet took position around Earth and began aggressive scanning operations that made human governance very nervous. Captain Bishop called an emergency meeting of all Earth Defense Forces and warned them that the situation was about to get much worse. The aliens were no longer treating this as a research mission but as a military threat assessment. Dr. Martinez was working day and night to find some way to prove that human emotions were not weapons. He had built several devices that could measure bioelectric fields, and he was trying to show the aliens that every living thing produced similar energy patterns. The problem was that human readings were much stronger than other Earth animals, because human brains were more complex. Claire Roberts was Earth's best gravity researcher, and she was desperately trying to build a real gravity manipulation device to show the aliens what actual gravity control looked like. Her laboratory was filled with experimental equipment that barely worked, and her test results were disappointing. Real gravity manipulation was incredibly difficult and required massive amounts of energy. Admiral Corthton sent an ultimatum to Earth's leaders demanding that they surrender their gravity weapon technology within 72 hours or face military action. He claimed that human gravity fields were growing stronger every day and posed an unacceptable threat to galactic security. President Davis tried to explain that humans had no such weapons, but the Admiral refused to listen. Colonel Steve Parker was in charge of Earth's space fighter squadrons, and he knew his pilots were scared of fighting advanced alien technology. The fear made them nervous during training flights, and their stress levels created even stronger bioelectric readings that the alien instruments detected. The Draconians interpreted this as humans powering up their gravity weapons for combat. Dr. Foster made another important discovery about the alien misunderstanding when she realized that the Draconian species had no fear response at all. Their brains were designed for aggression and conquest, while human brains were designed for survival and complex social interaction. The two species were so different that they could barely recognize each other as intelligent life. Captain Vec was caught between his peaceful scientific mission and the aggressive military approach of Admiral Corth. He tried to convince the Draconian commander that humans were not hostile, but the Admiral pointed to the increasing energy readings as proof that Earth was preparing for war. Every time humans got more scared, the readings got stronger and confirmed Draconian suspicions. Lisa and Jake were running out of time to solve the communication problem. They had been working with Professor Carter to create new translation methods, but the concept of involuntary emotional responses simply did not exist in most alien languages. The closest word in Draconian meant something like controlled battle rage, which was completely different from human fear. Claire Roberts finally got her gravity manipulation prototype working and invited the alien scientists to observe a demonstration. Her device could create small gravitational anomalies using massive amounts of electrical power, but the energy signature was completely different from the readings the aliens had detected from human cities. The aliens assumed that humans were Using a much more advanced version of the same technology, Dr. Coleman made a breakthrough when she realized that the aliens' own species lacked the brain chemistry that created fear responses in humans. She found research papers showing that most galactic civilizations had evolved from predator species that did not need complex emotional systems. Humans were unusual because they had evolved as prey animals that needed fear to survive. Admiral Dan was getting impatient with human delays, and he ordered his ships to begin targeting major Earth cities with weapons that could destroy entire continents. He announced that if humans did not surrender their gravity weapons immediately, he would demonstrate the consequences of threatening galactic peace. The countdown began, and Earth had less than 24 hours to find a solution. Captain Bishop coordinated Earth's military response, but he knew that human weapons were no match for advanced alien technology. His only hope was to convince some of the alien scientists that the Draconians were making a terrible mistake. He sent messages to Captain Vexstar asking for help, but the peaceful aliens were being overruled by their military commanders. Dr. Martinez had an idea that might save Earth, but it was very risky. He wanted to invite a small group of aliens to visit a human city during a time of high stress to show them exactly what was creating the energy readings. If they could observe human fear responses in person, they might finally understand that emotions were not controllable weapons. The plan was dangerous because bringing aliens to Earth might cause panic among the human population, which would create even stronger energy readings and convince the Draconians that humans were trying to attack them. But time was running out, and desperate situations required desperate measures. Claire Roberts volunteered to shut down her gravity research completely to prove that human cities would still produce energy readings even without any artificial gravity manipulation devices. She destroyed months of work and turned off all her equipment, but the alien instruments still detected the same patterns from human population centers. Professor Carter made one final attempt to explain human emotions using mathematical models that alien minds could understand better than biological concepts. He created equations that described how fear affected human nervous systems and showed how the bioelectric changes were automatic responses that humans could not control. Lisa worked with Dr. Coleman to prepare a presentation that would either save Earth or doom it completely. They gathered videos of humans experiencing natural fear responses and biological data showing how emotions affected the human body. Their hope was that seeing real examples might help at least some aliens understand the truth. As the deadline approached, both sides prepared for the worst possible outcome, while a few brave scientists on both sides made one last desperate attempt to prevent a war that would destroy Earth and create the biggest tragedy in galactic history. With only 12 hours left before Admiral Corthin would begin destroying Earth's cities, Dr. Foster made a desperate decision that would either save humanity or prove their guilt to the galactic fleet. She invited Captain Vexstar and 5 other alien scientists to visit Earth and experience human entertainment designed to create strong emotional responses in controlled conditions. The alien shuttle landed at Frontier Base, where Lisa and Jake had prepared a special demonstration room, filled with monitoring equipment and comfortable seating for beings with different body types. Captain Vexstar was nervous about visiting the planet, where humans were supposedly developing gravity weapons, but his scientific curiosity was stronger than his fear. Dr. Kevin Walsh had spent 3 days preparing for this moment by gathering the best examples of human horror entertainment he could find. Movies that scared humans the most would hopefully show the aliens exactly how fear worked and why it created the energy signatures their instruments detected. He had also prepared medical equipment to monitor human volunteers during the demonstrations. Captain Bishop was not happy about bringing aliens to Earth when the Draconian fleet was preparing to attack, but he understood that this was probably humanity's last chance to avoid destruction. He positioned his best security teams around the demonstration area and hoped that the aliens would not interpret human nervousness as evidence of hostile intentions. The first part of the demonstration involved showing the aliens how human brains worked during normal conditions. Dr. Walsh had volunteer subjects from the base staff, who allowed alien instruments to monitor their bioelectric patterns, while they performed simple tasks like reading books and solving math problems. The energy readings were very low and stable. Captain Vexstar was impressed by the complexity of human brain activity, but he still believed that the energy patterns were somehow connected to gravity manipulation technology. His instruments showed that human brains used electrical signals in ways that were much more complicated than most species, but he thought this was how they controlled their mysterious weapons. Then Dr. Foster began the main experiment by showing the aliens a classic human horror movie about monsters that hunted people in dark places. She had chosen this film because it consistently scared human audiences and created strong physiological responses that alien instruments should be able to detect clearly. The human volunteers watched the movie while alien equipment monitored their brain activity, heart rate, and bioelectric fields. As the scary scenes played, the human stress responses became stronger and the energy readings began to match the patterns that had been detected from Earth's cities. The aliens watched in fascination as human biology changed in response to fictional threats. Dr. Walsh explained how human fear worked as a survival mechanism that prepared the body for danger by increasing heart rate, releasing stress hormones, and changing brain activity patterns. He showed the aliens charts and graphs that demonstrated how these automatic responses created the bioelectric signatures their instruments were detecting. But most of the alien observers still did not understand what they were seeing. Captain Vexter thought the humans were demonstrating how they could control their gravity manipulation abilities by watching training videos. The other aliens agreed that this was obviously some kind of weapon system that used entertainment as a cover story. The breakthrough came when Dr. Coleman suggested that the aliens should try to experience something similar to human fear themselves. She had researched alien psychology and found that one species in the group had primitive emotional responses that might be similar to human reactions under the right conditions. Dr. Cathara volunteered to be the test subject because her people had weak but measurable emotional reactions to certain stimuli. Dr. Foster created a scenario designed to trigger whatever fear response Cathara's species might have by showing her images and sounds that were threatening to her particular type of biology. When Cathara experienced something like fear for the first time in her life, the alien instruments detected a small but definite change in her bioelectric patterns. The reading was much weaker than human responses, but it had the same basic characteristics as the energy signatures from Earth's cities. Tony Mitchell was working late in his engineering lab when a power surge caused one of his experimental devices to explode in a shower of sparks and dangerous radiation. The accident triggered genuine terror in everyone present, including Dr. Coleman and Jake, who had been observing the alien demonstration in the next room. The aliens witnessed authentic human fear in real time as the research team ran for safety and activated emergency procedures. Their instruments recorded massive energy spikes from every human in the area, and the readings exactly matched the patterns they had been detecting from Earth's population centers. Dr. Coleman explained through her translator that what the aliens had just observed was completely involuntary and uncontrolled. Humans could not turn their fear responses on and off like a machine, and they certainly could not use emotions as weapons against other people. Fear was simply how human bodies reacted to dangerous or unknown situations. Captain Vextar finally began to understand what his instruments had been detecting all along. The energy signatures from Earth were not gravity weapons, but the combined bioelectric responses of millions of humans who were scared of the alien ships orbiting their planet. The more aliens that arrived, the more frightened humans became, and the stronger the readings grew. Jake pointed out that human fear responses had been getting stronger ever since the first alien ship appeared because people were naturally afraid of the unknown. The arrival of Admiral Corthton's war fleet had caused panic in major cities around the world, which explained why the energy readings had increased so dramatically in recent days. Dr. Foster showed the aliens' medical research proving that fear evolved as a survival tool that helped early humans escape from predators and natural disasters. The bioelectric changes prepared human bodies for fighting or running away, but they were automatic biological responses, not technological capabilities. The alien scientists spent hours reviewing the data and discussing what they had learned. Some of them were beginning to accept that humans really did not have gravity weapons, and that the energy readings came from involuntary emotional responses. But others remained suspicious and wondered if this was all an elaborate deception. Captain Vexter realized that he needed to contact Admiral Corthton immediately to explain what they had discovered. The problem was that Draconians had even less understanding of emotions than other alien species, and convincing them that fear was not a weapon would be almost impossible. As the deadline approached, the fate of humanity depended on whether a few alien scientists could convince their military commanders that the biggest threat in galactic history was actually just a misunderstanding about biology and evolution. Captain Vextar transmitted his findings to Admiral Corthton with only 6 hours remaining before the Draconian fleet would begin destroying Earth's cities. The scientific evidence was clear that humans had no gravity weapons, and that the energy Readings came from involuntary biological responses to fear. But the Admiral's response was not what anyone expected. Admiral Corfton read the report, and became even more convinced that humans were dangerous enemies who needed to be eliminated. Immediately, he argued that any species capable of such complex deception was obviously planning something terrible, and that their claims about involuntary emotions were simply another layer of lies designed to protect their secret weapons program. The Galactic fleet split into two groups as news of the discovery spread among the different alien species. Progressive civilizations like the Catharians and the Velthani accepted the scientific evidence and began to see humans as fascinating rather than threatening, but militaristic species like the Draconians and the Zorkati insisted that the whole thing was an elaborate trick. Dr. Patricia Green was working with alien scientist Velthan to create a mathematical model that would help other species understand human emotions. They used complex equations to describe how fear responses worked, and showed that the energy patterns followed biological rules rather than technological principles. The math was convincing to scientists, but military commanders were not interested in equations. President Davis received reports that some alien ships were leaving the solar system while others were moving into attack positions around Earth. Peaceful first contact scenario had turned into a civil war among the aliens themselves, with humanity caught in the middle. She ordered all human military forces to prepare for battle while hoping that diplomacy might still prevent disaster. Colonel Parker discovered that his pilots were experiencing different types of fear as the situation developed, and these emotional changes were creating new patterns in the alien readings. Some humans were terrified of being destroyed, while others were angry about being threatened, and a few were excited about the possibility of fighting advanced aliens. Each emotion produced different bioelectric signatures. Dr. Martinez proposed the most ambitious demonstration in human history by inviting representatives from every major galactic species to visit Earth and observe comprehensive tests of human emotional responses. He wanted to prove once and for all that emotions were biological rather than technological by showing aliens dozens of different human reactions under controlled conditions. The proposal was extremely risky because bringing more aliens to Earth would likely increase human stress levels and create even stronger energy readings. Admiral Corfton could interpret this as proof that humans were powering up their weapons for a major attack. But with time running out, desperate measures were the only option left. Captain Vexter supported the demonstration plan, and used his influence with other peaceful species to convince them to participate. Dr. Cathara had become a strong advocate for humanity after experiencing her own fear response, and she helped organize the scientific community around the new evidence about human biology. Admiral Corfton initially refused to allow the demonstration, but changed his mind when he realized it would give him the perfect opportunity to destroy the human leadership and many alien scientists who supported them. He secretly ordered his ships to prepare for a surprise attack during the gathering that would eliminate the human threat permanently. Lisa and Zek worked around the clock to prepare presentation materials that would show aliens every aspect of human emotional life. They gathered videos of humans experiencing happiness, sadness, anger, excitement, love, and dozens of other feelings. Each emotion created different bioelectric patterns that alien instruments could detect and measure. Dr. Foster realized that the demonstration would need to include negative emotions like fear and anger, which might be interpreted as hostile by military observers. But she also knew that showing only positive emotions would not convince skeptical aliens that humans were telling the truth about their involuntary biological responses. The Grand Assembly was scheduled to take place at the PCHE United Nations headquarters in New York, with representatives from 47 different galactic species. Security preparations were massive because both humans and aliens were nervous about the gathering. Captain Bishop positioned his forces to protect the delegates while watching for signs of draconian treachery. Claire Roberts had completely rebuilt her gravity manipulation prototype to demonstrate the difference between real gravitational control and human emotional responses. Her new device was much more powerful than before and created energy signatures that were clearly technological rather than biological. She hoped this would prove that human cities produced completely different readings. Professor Carter discovered that several alien languages had no words for complex emotions, and he worked with linguist teams to create new vocabulary that might help species understand concepts like fear, love, and hope. The translation problem was bigger than anyone had realized, because most aliens simply could not imagine what human emotions felt like. Dr. Coleman prepared biological samples and medical equipment that would allow alien scientists to examine human nervous systems and brain chemistry during emotional responses. She wanted to prove that emotions created physical changes in human bodies that were completely different from any kind of weapon technology. As the demonstration day approached, both humans and aliens prepared for what might be the most important event in galactic history. Some species were genuinely curious about human biology, while others remained convinced that the whole thing was a trap designed to lower their defenses before a surprise attack. Captain Vexter received intelligence reports suggesting that Admiral Corthton was planning something during the demonstration, but he could not get specific details about the draconian plot. He warned Dr. Foster that the gathering might be dangerous, but she insisted that this was humanity's only chance to avoid destruction. The stage was set for a final confrontation that would either prove human innocence and create a new era of galactic cooperation, or confirm alien suspicions and lead to the complete destruction of Earth and everyone who had supported the human cause. The Grand Assembly convened at the United Nations building, with representatives from 47 galactic species filling the Great Hall. Dr. Coleman stood at the podium, looking out at hundreds of alien faces while knowing that the future of humanity depended on the next few hours. Behind her, a massive screen displayed real-time readings from instruments that would monitor human bioelectric patterns during the demonstration. Claire Roberts activated her gravity manipulation prototype in full view of the alien observers, and the device created artificial gravitational fields that were clearly technological in nature. The energy signature was sharp and controlled, unlike the organic patterns that alien instruments had been detecting from human cities. Several alien scientists nodded in understanding as they saw the obvious difference. Admiral Corthton watched from his command ship and prepared to spring his trap. He had positioned draconian forces around Earth and planned to attack the moment the demonstration began. In his mind, the gathering was proof that humans were organizing their allies for a coordinated assault on galactic civilization, and he would not allow it to succeed. Dr. Martinez began the emotional demonstration by showing the assembled aliens how human volunteers responded to different stimuli. The first test involved playing beautiful music that made humans feel happy and peaceful. The bioelectric readings showed gentle positive patterns that were completely different from the fear responses that had originally attracted alien attention. Captain Vexter translated the proceedings for species that had difficulty understanding human concepts, and he was amazed by the complexity of human emotional life. His own people experienced simple satisfaction or dissatisfaction, but humans seemed to have dozens of different feeling states that affected their entire biology in measurable ways. The second test involved showing humans images of natural disasters and dangerous animals, which triggered fear responses similar to what the aliens had detected from Earth's cities. The energy readings were strong and distinctive, but the human subjects explained that they could not control these reactions any more than they could control their heartbeat or breathing. Dr. Walsh demonstrated how human children learn to manage their emotional responses through education and practice, but emphasized that the underlying biological reactions remained involuntary. Even the most disciplined humans could not completely eliminate their fear responses because these reactions were hardwired into their nervous systems by millions of years of evolution. Admiral Corthton had seen enough and ordered his ships to begin the attack. Draconian weapons charged up and prepared to fire on the United Nations building where hundreds of the galaxy's most important scientists and diplomats were gathered. He believed he was saving galactic civilization from a terrible threat. But as the Draconian fleet moved into attack position, something unexpected happened. The massive collective fear response from 8 million humans in New York City created energy readings that dwarfed anything the aliens had recorded before. Every instrument in the solar system detected the bioelectric surge as millions of people simultaneously experienced terror. Captain Bishop's early warning systems detected the incoming draconian attack, and he broadcast emergency alerts throughout the city. The panic was immediate and overwhelming as people ran for shelter or tried to evacuate the area. The fear was genuine and involuntary, exactly as human scientists had claimed. The alien observers in the United Nations building witnessed the largest emotional response in recorded history as their instruments went completely off scale, trying to measure the bioelectric output from New York's terrified population. Dr. Coleman shouted over the noise that this was exactly what she had been trying to explain about human biology. Even the most skeptical alien scientists could see that the energy readings were coming from involuntary biological responses rather than controlled technology. The patterns were chaotic and uncontrolled, unlike any weapon system ever developed. The humans in the building were obviously as surprised and frightened as everyone else. Captain Vexstar immediately contacted other ships in the peaceful faction and ordered them to defend Earth against the draconian attack. The civil war among the aliens became a shooting war as different species chose sides based on their interpretation of the human evidence. Laser beams and plasma cannons lit up the sky above Earth. Dr. Foster used the emergency to prove her final point about human emotions by showing how different people reacted to the same crisis in completely different ways. Some humans were paralyzed by fear, while others became angry and wanted to fight back. A few remained calm and tried to help others escape danger. The variety of responses proved that emotions were not controlled weapons. The battle in space lasted for 3 hours as progressive alien species fought to protect Earth from destruction by militaristic factions that still believed humans were a threat. Captain Bishop's pilots joined the fight alongside their alien allies and proved that humans could be brave as well as afraid when circumstances required courage. Admiral Corthton was eventually defeated when most of his own fleet turned against him after witnessing the obvious truth about human emotional responses. The evidence was overwhelming that fear was a biological survival mechanism rather than a technological weapon. The remaining draconian hardliners retreated to deep space rather than accept the new reality. Dr. Walsh explained to the surviving alien delegates that human fear had evolved to help the species survive on a dangerous planet filled with predators, natural disasters, and other threats. The capacity for complex emotional responses had made humans successful as a species, but it also made them seem alien to civilizations that had evolved simpler psychological systems. Captain Vexstar proposed a new relationship between humanity and the Galactic Consortium based on mutual understanding and cooperation rather than fear and suspicion. He suggested that human emotional intelligence could be valuable for understanding other developing species and for resolving conflicts between different types of civilizations. The assembly concluded with the establishment of the Institute for Interspecies Emotional Studies, where human researchers would work with alien scientists to explore the role of feelings in galactic civilization. Dr. Coleman became the first director and Captain Vexstar agreed to serve as Earth's first alien ambassador. Lisa and Jake were assigned to develop new translation methods that would help species understand emotional concepts that did not exist in their own languages. Their work would prevent future misunderstandings and make communication between different types of minds much more effective. The final scene took place 1 year later at the Institute, where human and alien children played together in carefully designed programs that helped young beings from different species understand each other. Human children learned to think beyond emotion, while alien children discovered the richness and complexity of feeling. The misunderstanding that had nearly led to the destruction of Earth became the foundation for unprecedented cooperation between species with completely different ways of experiencing reality. Fear, which had been seen as humanity's greatest weakness, became their most valuable contribution to galactic civilization.